So you want to play CEDH, or you already play CEDH and want to get better? Well, you have come to the right place. Welcome to MTG Tuesday's tips and tricks, and we're talking about how to play CEDH. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. We've talked about picking your commander and looking at your opening hand and stuff like that, and now we kind of want to talk about using your interaction. When I say interaction, that means counter spells, removal spells, things like that. And we're going to keep discussing this. And again, I am not the expert of experts, but I have learned quite a bit and have been taught by some people who are really good, and I am still learning. And I want to teach you what I know and help you become a better CEDH player or get into CEDH. A lot of people are scared of it, but it's a lot of fun. It can be really crazy. The stacks can be like this deep with lots of spells on the stack. And that's why it's important to kind of understand when should I use my interaction or not. Honestly, it also depends on what kind of interaction, what kind of decks you're running. If you're running decks that have lots of counter spells and stuff like that, you want to do it. But sometimes people just like in casual commander or normal stuff, or even in like standard formats, you just fire off your counters quickly because you just want to use them because you can. Whereas in CEDH, you don't always want to do that. You know, typically, so if someone's casting like a turn 1 Mana Vault or even a Soul Ring, maybe you let it go. It just depends on how fast and far ahead they already are. A lot of times you do let it go. But you want to, realistically, the things you really want to counter and slow down is you want to slow down anything that helps them draw cards faster. So, Mystic Remora turn 1, if you have like a way to counter it, counter it. Rhystic Study, if they can drop Rhystic Study turn 1, they're probably going to win the game. Smothering Tithe wins games in CEDH as well. Then there are certain creatures. Now, granted, not all of our spells, a lot of times in CEDH, get around creatures, so then you want to use your removal on those, and so you got to kind of time it right, know when to use it. And also understand there's a good chance that when you use your removal, other people have removal as well. So if it's something that we do not want to resolve, you want to kind of look at the table and be like, hey, can someone back me up? Especially if it's something that you're like, yeah, we got to take care of this, and you can try to stop it. And if people have backup, they'll help you counterspell, and it gets really fun. The stacks can get really interesting and intriguing depending on the different types of spells and different things that people are running. But you got to think about it when you're running, and you definitely always, if someone's going for a win or they're going to try to win the game, you definitely want to try to counter that. Again, usually when someone's going for a win, they're probably going to have a counterspell or two up, so keep that in mind. Sometimes you may only have one counterspell, but if you have one and the other table has others, it's good. That's why like Flusterstorm is really good. Mindbreak Trap is a really good one because you get like the stacks that have multiple spells, and then you can just counter all the stuff on the stack, and then it just goes away that you want to go away. And so it's a lot of fun, a lot of interesting things that can happen there. In that, you pick and choose. You want to use it. You don't want to just fire it off and be like, oh, they're dropping their commander. Okay, well, what does their commander do? If it's Kinnan, you kind of want to get Kinnan off the board as quick as possible, unless there is no rocks or anything on the board. Now, granted, usually Kinnan comes out and there's already mana rocks or mana dorks out there, and they're able to start producing mana fast. Kinnan goes quick once they start getting that mana, and then it's just, there's nothing you can do. Then you're like, oh, I removed Kinnan once, but then if they can get it back on the board again, it kind of is bad. Same like with Magda and stuff like that. They like, if you can get them and stop them, remove them before they get going, it's really, really good. Hashiton is my current commander. He is a commander that some people don't understand just yet, so sometimes they just fire off a flash counterspell or removal spell. He can be scary as soon as something gets on the board where there's discard outlets or there's a way to discard. That is where things are scary, and there's open mana. There's got to be at least 3 mana, so that's something you got to keep in mind. Is he can be scary, but he's not as scary right off the bat. Some commanders aren't that way. Some things you don't want to resolve, like an Atali or something like that, because they start hitting their triggers and they get all the good stuff off you guys. So you got to be careful and consider, okay, what is bad, what is good, what can resolve, what doesn't resolve, things like that. A lot of creatures can resolve. A lot of people drop like a turn 1 Esper Sentinel, turn 1, like Ledger Shredder, sometimes like in certain decks. Sometimes you got, Eternal Polymer Prodigy. Those are good things to eventually get rid of. Right off the bat, if they drop a spot 1, turn 1, spot 1, something like that, and they're drawing a lot, it's good. Anything they get advantage on, you gotta think about, okay, do I use my removal there? So you don't just necessarily use your removal on the 1/1 Esper, especially if you've got like Orcish Bowmasters in your hand. You can just ping it with your Orcish Bowmasters, let them go for the draw, ping it, use it to ping something else, and everything. And so it is all about thinking about your interaction and how to interact with the board, what to counter, what not to counter, what to remove, what not to remove. Is this spell? Now, usually a lot of times people tell you in normal commander, don't counter the tutor. In CEDH, a lot of times you want to counter the tutor, typically, because they're probably going to go get if they don't have their win con, if they already have their win con, they're going to go get something to help back up their win con. If they don't have their win con, they might have answers in their hand, or they might be getting something like a creature where you may not have the counter spell to stop it, but you may have like the 1 mana, Mental Misstep. I can get rid of that. I can stop that if it's a Vampiric Tutor. Or you have something that only, this an offer you can refuse, can only do non-creature spells. So like if they're going for a creature combo line, and you don't have a way to stop it, it's kind of bad when they go get the thing and then they just win and you can't do anything. Or they go get a card and basically they put a silence on the stack where no one can cast spells, or they get a Great Arbiter out where no one can cast spells or activated abilities. It's various protection, stuff like that, where they just kind of shut you off. That's when you kind of want to stop the tutor, because then they can't go get the tutor to get what they need to protect themselves. And so a lot of times you do counter the tutor, not every time, but a lot of times you counter the tutors in the game a lot more often. And granted, if it's like a mystical tutor or something, sometimes you let resolve, but a lot of times if they're mystical tutoring, they're going to get their counter spell, put it so they can get it in their hand. All these different things. People are like, oh, they're Vampiric Tutor, they're just putting it on top. Yeah, but typically that means they have a way to draw it. And get it out there. But also you still want to communicate too, because maybe if they're not in a position to win but they're tutoring for something, then they don't have to be honest with you, but a lot of times like I'll tutor for something sometimes if we're in trouble. I'm like, look, I'm trying to get an answer. And I'll go get an answer. Now sometimes they can be honest with my answer and be like, yeah, I'm going to get an answer. My answer is to win on top of everybody. That can happen. Two people do have ways to win on top of each other, so that's the other crazy thing is, like I said, stacks can get really crazy. We'll try to talk about maybe the stacks and countering and how to interact and how to go for your wins and stuff like that as well. But if you have questions about CEDH, definitely put it in the comments below. Concern things about you may not understand about CEDH, maybe you've never played CEDH before. In the comments below. But I love CEDH. I'm getting very much more into it and trying to put out more CEDH content to get more people interested in it as well. There is a great community that's growing of CEDH, and there are big name people. There's a lot of us smaller guys that are trying to pump up CEDH and get more people interested in it. We want you to come along and play. And look, if you're interested in playing CEDH with myself, I have Saturday morning Magic, and would love to have you on sometime to play CEDH. I also have, if you're looking to play, find people to play, there is a Discord I can recommend to you. Feel free to reach out. I'll get you into that Discord, and we can get some games going. But thank you guys so much for being here, and as always, get some CEDH games, come play CEDH, learn to use your interaction right, and as always, we'll see you next time.